One of my absolute favorite things about board games is when they provide players with an incredible amount of variability through asymmetrical powers. And I'm not just referring to all the cards and missions and technologies that you can use to shape each of your turns. I'm talking about the actual factions and empires and characters that fundamentally change the way in which you play the game. Well, if you enjoy games that emphasize unique player strategies like Eclipse, Terra Mystica, and Root, then I'm here to tell you that you have yet another possible option to consider with Hybris Disordered Cosmos, a card drafting, hand management, worker placement game that puts you in the role of a unique and powerful god vying for the throne of Olympus and control over the mortal world. Now, before I start, I do want to mention that this video is being sponsored from the publisher Aurora Game Studio, so this will be a brief overview of the game, and I'll let you decide if this is something that you wish to back on Kickstarter. With that, let's get right into the actual game. There are three key things that I believe make this a game that enthusiast gamers are going to enjoy. Those being the amount of options presented to players as a worker placement game, the game's focus on keeping players continually engaged even during other players' turns, and the heavy usage of asymmetry in the game by making each of the gods wildly different and unique to play. Let's start with the game's core revolving around worker placement, one of my favorite mechanisms. And as you can clearly see, this game takes up a rather large footprint with 7 different boards that come together to form the total play space. Each of these boards represents a specific Greek location, with numerous worker placement spots providing multiple possible actions for players to take, all of which are thematically linked to the mythology behind them. Now, in addition, each location will typically have their own set of components that can only be acquired when visited by specific types of workers that each of the players control, being their prophets, their heroes, and finally their god, with each player starting with one of each of these 3. And as mentioned, these locations are as numerous as they are varied in the options that they provide, with locations like the Oracle, allowing players to see into the future so that they can better prepare for the bad omens in upcoming rounds, or the Colosseum, which allows players to duel NPC heroes so that they can defeat them and then permanently gain them into their worker pool. And these are just 2 of the 20 possible actions that players can take depending upon the location on which they place their worker. One of the more unique things at play here, even outside of all the worker placement options and having to use very specific types of workers at certain locations, is that players must also assign face down and secret location tokens below all of their characters' bases before any of the workers are placed. Effectively, this does 2 things that require a good amount of forethought in the game. 1, it makes players become hyper aware of what other players' progression is in the game by having to predict which locations may or may not be available for their own workers when their turn comes back around to them. And 2, it means that you have to expend all of these used location tokens to your board, meaning that you will not be able to revisit these locations until the end of the following round. So in effect, players must continually manage their workers by assigning the right characters to the right locations to take the right actions at just the right times. And all these options weigh heavily on your choices in the game, and either by fulfilling quests from the Oracle, developing technologies from Olympus, or focusing on combat in the Colosseum. In essence, Hybris is probably best described as a choice-rich worker placement game where most of the actions that you take will bleed into future choices. And the complexity is found not really in the game's rules, but the ways in which players can manipulate their actions to score their points most effectively using all of those different methods. Speaking of choices, each round begins with a draft, where players must choose one of the 6 Divine Pillar cards according to their ranking on the greatness track. At the start of the game, this will be determined directly by the god that they chose to play, each having their own initial ranking according to their character board, but will change throughout the game depending upon players' choices. Each of these 6 Divine Pillar cards has 3 different sections on them, which provide 3 specific functions. First, by creating the new turn order for the round with lower numbered pillars determining who takes their actions before others. Second, by providing a powerful one-time ability to the pillar's owner when they place their god on a worker placement spot. And third, a reward that is listed on the bottom of that card that is only given to the other players at the table when they use their Divine Pillar card. In short, these cards come at a cost, and that has to do with giving all the other players at the table some kind of benefit for you taking that specific powerful action. This core mechanism continually pushes the game forward at all times, highlighted mostly by delivering new options for players to pursue on every single round. Now, best of all is that each of these Divine Pillar cards is really powerful in their own right, especially when played at just the right times, allowing players to pivot their strategies and quickly adapt to the actions of other players at the table. But probably one of the coolest aspects in all of Hybris comes with that very first choice that players must make at the start of the game. And that's choosing which asymmetrical god that you want to play, each of which provides their own set of base powers to explore, conflict cards to use, or enhancement tiles to unlock, allowing players to twist the very rules of the game to their benefit in some very unique and clever ways. Speaking of enhancements, each of the gods has 6 double-sided tiles that hold a number of different resources, heroes, prophets, and temples, each of which must be removed through various actions in the game in order from left to right, permanently earning that player those resources and flipping that tile over to provide yet another ongoing ability. And these tiles aren't just beneficial for the players that they provide. They also are one of the 2 endgame triggers by providing an outright victory to the first player to flip and earn all 6 of their unique enhancements. Otherwise, the game will carry on the course of 6 rounds, with games taking about 45 minutes per player. And despite this enormous footprint that you see here, learning is actually fairly easy, where the complexity comes in considering all these interconnected pieces that you must digest in order to play the game well. And that's probably what you need to consider most about this game, as it will surely appeal to more enthusiast fans of heavier weight Euro-style worker placement games like Anachrony or maybe even a Gaia project. So hopefully that sheds some light on Hybris Disordered Cosmos. If you have any questions about the game, please make them in the comments below. Check out their Kickstarter page for all the final components, and we'll see you guys next time. Hey everyone, if you guys enjoyed this video, please consider dinging the old bell below. That is going to help notify you of new videos that are uploaded to our channel. And as always, give us a like, subscribe to our channel, and please consider watching all of our videos, one of which you can see right here to my left.